Good morning and welcome to the Truck King YouTube channel. Now, behind me here are the top selling half-ton pickups in North America and arguably in the world. Now, we're more than halfway through 2021, and that's what these are, 2021s. And frankly, we've had each one of these previously, so we've got quite a bit of seat time in these trucks, but we rarely get a chance to have them all together at the same time. So today, we're going to spend a lot more time doing what everybody loves: comparisons. Straight up looking at one versus the other, and then we're going to talk about what we like and what we don't like. And in case you're wondering, Steve normally does the intros, but believe it or not, he showed up to work this morning without his Truck King shirt, so I had to give him a timeout. But he'll be back later. So let's get going. So what we're looking at here today is the GMC Denali, so top trim. The Ford we have is a Platinum, so actually it's down one from limited. However, it's also optioned up. And then the Ram is actually a special 10th anniversary edition, so once again, top trim. The other thing these trucks all have in common is not a single one of them is under $80,000. Actually, they're significantly north of that. Now, one of the things that I just want to get to right off the hop is that, sure, you know, we can look at all the stats. We can compare them, put it in a grid, put them across the board. But the other thing that we're really going to talk about today is, why is someone a brand loyalist? It's what touches your heart, and that is a lot bigger portion of a buying decision than most guys want to let on. But it's true, you know it is, and we're going to look at that. So, but nevertheless, we're going to look at the numbers. We'll start off with the engines, and for that, I'm going to let Steve come out of his timeout, and he can get back to work.
Now let's look at the powertrains here, folks. And yes, Dad let me out of timeout for wearing my non-Truck King shirt, but here, I think it's a pretty nice shirt. Give me a break, man. Anyways, let's talk about engines. So first of all, what we have here today is 3 gasoline engines. I'll throw up the numbers right here so you can see all of the specs. I don't want to dwell necessarily on what we're looking at here, though. I want to talk about sort of what Dad mentioned and just talk about what engines I like in each one of these trucks, just based on, you know, what I've driven and what I end up liking the most. So here at General Motors, if I had to buy a Silverado or a Sierra, I'm gonna get the 3-liter diesel. That Duramax diesel is so smooth, so powerful, so well balanced, and so quiet. It really is the ultimate package. Now, sliding over here to Ford, I wanna quickly mention, you can no longer get a diesel in the F-150. They actually moved away from that, discontinued the diesel. I'm okay with it because it was never a great diesel to begin with, if we're being honest. Now, if I had to buy an F-150 today, it's got to be the Power Boost Hybrid. That new hybrid powertrain is very impressive. You get this standard Pro Power on board, great fuel economy, tons of power. That hybrid is impressive, and it's the only truck here you can get a full hybrid in. Finally, we roll over to Ram, and I got to tell you guys, in the powertrain department, I really feel like Ram is falling behind. When 2019 rolled around and we got the new redesigned Ram, we still had the same engines. We got the e-torque system, but that's not really helping all that much. So yeah, the Hemi is still strong, but it hasn't been updated in a while. The V6 is pretty good. And then of course we do get the EcoDiesel, and I like the EcoDiesel, but GM came and basically made a better diesel. So all of that is to say, if I had to buy a Ram today, I'm gonna get this Hemi. This is still a strong V8. Although, yeah, compared to the other two, I just wish Ram would spend some more time on its powertrains. Now let's take a look at the business end of these pickup trucks, and all of them have tailgates with interesting features. But one common feature, right on the key fobs now, there's a button to drop your tailgate, so you can let that thing down, so if your hands are full, you can just drop your stuff right into the bed. And this doesn't prove anything, but it's fun. It's time for a tailgate race. I've got 2 fobs, Dad's got 1 fob. And here we go. Ready, Dad? On go. 3, 2, 1, go. Ram! There it goes. I don't know what's up with this Ram key fob. I swear to God, I'm blaming the fob on this. When I keep hitting it, it doesn't want to go. But the GM was the quickest, if you saw that one. I also think it might be the heaviest with how much is going on over there, but that one falls quick. Yes, it is true. The Ford comes back up. The GM can come back up, but not on the truck that we have here today. And, well, I don't think Ram does that yet. Let's look at the actual features on the tailgates now. And we're starting with Ford because Ford was the first brand to say, hey, you know what? Trucks are so tall now, we need a step at the rear end. Now this is actually the second generation Ford bed step. The first gen took up a big chunk out of your tailgate like this, so it was big raised section. It wasn't great. They've gotten rid of that, and this is a beautiful piece of engineering. The step is totally tucked out of your way. When it comes time to pull it out, it's that simple. It hangs nice and low, and I gotta tell you, I still think that's probably the easiest step to use out of all three of these trucks. Now that's been around for a while, but new for 2021, Ford spent a bunch of time on the actual tailgate surface here. So they've put in little indents where you can put pencils or pens, you can throw your nuts and bolts there, you can stand your phone up over here. That's kind of handy right there. And then, you know, they put the ruler right on your tailgate, so if you're working here, you can measure things. Plus, C-clamp pockets, so you can bring a C-clamp and actually clamp something to the tailgate, and even tie-down points. If you have something that's longer than your tailgate, you can use those. I think a lot of these are really clever utilitarian features, and clearly Ford asked their customers what they wanted, because these are real world things that you're actually going to use, at least I would, especially these tie downs. I think that's brilliant. Now let's move over here to the GMC Sierra, because GMC was next to respond in the tailgate wars with this beauty right here. And I always like to say it's basically a tailgate in a tailgate. Now this top section drops like this, gives you a nice workstation. Then you have this nice load stopper here. Now the load stopper in this position is kind of high up, but you can build a deck in the bed of your Sierra, and then that's gonna stop any long things. Next up, you can just drop it like a normal tailgate, nice and easy. This is something I really like, and we've actually found ourselves using this a bunch. Just having a load stopper at the same level of the bed, that's handy. There's so many things you're always worried about coming out the end. Now you don't have to worry. And then finally, drop your inner tailgate. This gives you close access to your bed. And last but not least, roll this sucker down, and there we go, struggling with it there. You get a step down there, which is a little higher than Ford's maybe, but still really handy. And the step has a handle that comes with it. So GM kind of thought of everything here with this multi-function tailgate. And this one even has the accessory speakers down there in the tailgate. So if you're out partying, actually tailgating, you can bust that out too and crank up your tunes. So definitely a lot going on here with the GM. And now finally, let's roll over to the Ram. Now, this is the latest fancy tailgate to be introduced, and it's an interesting idea, and it's definitely a different idea than the other two brands. So first of all, it's a regular tailgate. But then if you use this lower handle, you get this split tailgate function. Now, once again, the main use for this is being able to physically get in closer to the back of your bed so you can reach things in there. And now here's the one thing that actually makes it really handy. They did design a specific step. So when you get the split tailgate, you get that step right in the middle of the truck and you're up and in. Now, I think this is a smart solution, but I also think it's really one-dimensional. This tailgate kind of only lets you do one thing. The other tailgates have a lot going on. So if we're talking about the tailgate wars, I'm not sure I could pick Ford over a GM or vice versa, but I can definitely tell you that Ram doesn't have as much fancy stuff on this tailgate as the other two brands do. There's no doubt that these manufacturers copy each other a lot, but there are some features on all of these trucks that are unique that you can only get at certain brands. One of the big ones, Ram boxes. None of the other manufacturers do this. The Ram box takes advantage of this big space in the fender over here, and it gives you dry, lockable storage. It's quite a big storage bin as well. And actually on the driver's side Ram box, we also get a 120 volt, 400 watt plug. So these I think are brilliant. They've been updated recently so that these actually lock with your key fob. You don't have to worry about locking them individually. If you have, I don't know, tools I think is a big one, maybe muddy work clothes, the Ram boxes are a brilliant solution, and you can only get them at Ram. Now the other way this truck really sets itself apart is in suspension. The Ford and the Chevy, or the GMC behind me, they both have leaf springs. The Ram here, it does not. It uses a coil spring rear suspension plus available air suspension. This is the only truck you can get airbags underneath too. So in the ride and handling department, Ram definitely sets itself apart. Now, rolling over here to the F-150, I think we've gone over the tailgate. I think the biggest feature here we have to point out that's unique, Pro Power on board. This truck can actually act as a generator for you. And that means you get 2 kilowatts of power at this plug compared to the just 400 watts on the other two trucks. So there's no doubt if you want to power things off of your truck, the F-150 is the clear option. Then we get over here to GMC and Chevrolet, and there's not a ton of things that really set this truck apart that are unique. The one I want to point out, the bumper step. The other two trucks, you know, there's the tailgate step on the Ford, that little kind of flimsy step on the Ram, but the bumper step on the GM, I still think is one of the most elegant solutions because it's always ready to go. It's just sitting there. Easy to climb up into this bed. Yeah, that's like a kind of a keep it simple, stupid solution. You don't need to engineer something that moves and slides. Just put a step right into your bumper. Definitely smart thinking from GM. Now let's talk towing and payload, and this is certainly an interesting conversation with these three trucks. So first of all, I'm gonna put up the maximum towing numbers for all three of them right here. Now these max numbers are generally for regular cab, two-wheel drive, long bed work trucks. So base models, essentially trucks that don't really exist in the real world, at least not in any great number. Now, these trucks that we're looking at are much more indicative of what people buy today, crew cabs with short beds and big V8s. Let's put up the towing numbers for these three specific trucks as they sit. These numbers are much more real world as to what most half tons can pull today, and that is between 75 and 10,000 pounds. You need to realize the numbers that are advertised are not really the numbers you're going to get in the real world. And that is also true of payload. So let me throw up the payload numbers right here. And yes, all three of those numbers are exactly what is off the door jam sticker. So 1,400 pounds out of the GMC and the Ford, you got to feel pretty good about that. Less than 1,000 out of the Ram, that's really sad, Ram. And I gotta tell you, with this truck right here, we have all the options, running boards, the tailgate in the back, the big sunroof up there, and all that stuff adds up and takes away from your payload. But you know what? This truck doesn't have a lot more features than these trucks. It's not like it has all this luxury that these don't. So when you look at it that way, I can't explain it away. The payload rating in this Ram just sucks. I want to look specifically at the wheels on these trucks right now. And first of all, here on the Ram 1500, that's an optional set of wheels with these painted pockets. I think these are the nicest looking of the bunch. I'll let you decide that though too, and you can let me know in the comments below. But what I want to point out, that is a set of 20-inch wheels on the Ram. Over here on the F-150 Platinum, these wheels are kind of plain. That is also a set of 20s, although to be fair to Ford, if this was a limited, those would be 22s. And now over here at the Sierra Denali, that is a set of 22-inch wheels. Again, I think they're a little plain looking, but I'll let you decide. Please let me know which ones you think look the best. But here's the point I want to make. General Motors just announced that the brand new Silverado EV is going to have 24-inch wheels as standard equipment. 24s. I couldn't believe when they got up to 20s. Now we're at 22s and we're going to 24s? It doesn't make sense for pickup trucks. Trucks are better off with less wheel and more tire sidewall. And it seems as though styling is driving this trend. Guys want bigger and bigger wheels. So once again, I want you guys to weigh in on this. Do you love the idea of huge wheels? I'll admit, I think they look good too, but I would rather have the utility of more tire than a bigger wheel. So again, weigh in on this. Are 24-inch wheels a good idea on the new Silverado? Now we're actually out here on the road, and we're going to take all three of these trucks for a short drive just so we can talk about, well, what we like when we're actually in here behind the wheel and sitting in the interior. And I'll start quickly with this Ram. This is the 10th anniversary limited Longhorn edition. So not only is it the highest trim, but it's also a special edition, and it's absolutely gorgeous in here. The Ram does such a nice job with their interiors, and it really comes down to small details, all of these different materials, this knurled metal, beautiful wood, plus this big 12-inch screen. And Ram was the first one to go to the big screen. We've said this a ton of times, and I still think it's true in 2021. Ram has the nicest interior in a half-ton, if that's really what you're going for. Nice big comfortable seats too. Yeah, that's everything I see from my side. Dad, what do you feel about the Ram?
And this is where I'm going to talk about what I like. And Ram, if you had to boil it down to one statement, it's attention to detail. The amount of details in here, the amount of materials, they could have gotten away with using a lot of the same stuff over and over again, but it's the combinations, and it's the way that it's weighted throughout. Not to mention, I dig the kind of the cowboy theme. So really, of the three, and we'll go through all three of them, but this is my favorite.
We are here in the Sierra Denali, so let's talk about the Sierra. And you guys have heard this story from us. This is the nicest trim GMC, and it's not that nice inside. I wish I could say something else. I think, unlike the Ram, there's not enough materials. There's like soft touch leather, this one piece of fake metal, and black plastic. And that's it. That's the whole dash. It just doesn't live up to a luxury truck.
And a small screen.
Yeah, small screen. You're right. Feels really small now.
Yeah, Denali for me has become very schizophrenic. I love the outside of it, the classic piano black with the chrome. It's a look that lots of people love, and I appreciate as well. And yet, when you get in the truck, you just kind of go, okay then. And frankly, not going to go on about it too much because GM knows, and for 2022, we don't know what's coming, but we know something's coming. And because they can't afford to wait for the next generational update. Totally. Because you're spending $80,000+. You want something inside that's, every time you get in, you want to go, yeah, I'm glad I bought this. And right now, Denali, no, not glad I bought this.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. However, the only saving grace, I'll back it up a little bit, this is the cheapest one out of the three of them. Even though the Ford isn't even top trim, it's more expensive and it's a trim down.
Yeah, I don't think you can even use the word cheapest here.
Right.
It's better to say least expensive, because cheapest leads the whole, this is no, wrong word.
You're right. But at the top end, if at the absolute most expensive, if you're looking for the bargain, GM is it. And finally, folks, here we are driving in this F-150 Platinum. Now, we've said this a couple times, but I will reiterate, Platinum is a step down from Limited, so this is not top trim. And you know what, Dad? I'm going to give Ford a lot of credit here. I don't feel like it's not top trim. You know, sitting in this truck right after sitting in the other two, I don't feel like it's any worse. In fact, it's definitely nicer than the GMC is.
So, yeah, but then again, Ford's got, what, 7 trim levels?
A lot of trim levels. Yeah, no doubt about it. A lot of trim levels. And especially up here when it comes to Platinum and King Ranch and Limited, you're splitting hairs, right? Like Limited, you get standard 22s, you get the standard sunroof, but we still get the massive moonroof. It's just an option on the Platinum. So you're right. You know, there's a lot of choices, and like I said, there are tiny little differences. But yeah, my takeaway here is Ford did a great job with this redesigned interior. They brought the big screen. They learned from Ram, though. They didn't put it vertical. They went horizontal with their screen.
I don't know if they learned, but they just said we're not going to do it the way they did it.
Well, fair enough. You know what I mean? They did something different. I kind of like this screen better, I think. I don't know why. I feel like the information is just more usable in this layout. Plus, I mentioned this before, when you use the cameras, it takes up the whole screen, not just the little
That is true.
Plus, Ford does the nice buttons with the screen. Yeah, I don't have a lot to complain about. And then the last thing, which is really smart, is this fold flat workstation. I thought maybe it was a little gimmicky at first, but you know what? I like it. And my favorite thing, Dad, this is funny, eating lunch.
I know. I was about to say, it's not a workstation, it's a lunch station.
Eating in the truck, you know, and let's be honest, you can laugh all you want, but if you are someone who works in your truck, you're going to end up eating in your truck a lot. It's nice to have a little table, man, so I think it's smart.
No, it is. And you know what? The interior is, it's clean, it's neat, it's very nicely put together. I won't take anything away from them. One of the things I do like here is that they've kept a nice balance of dials, buttons, and touchscreen. They didn't decide to go heavy one way or the other. And the things that you normally want to get to, such as your HVAC controls, and particularly the radio controls, are still dials, which is something universally accepted. It's something you can use without having to look at. So, you know, these things are all good. The other thing that Ford does, maybe a little better than some of the other guys, is give you the amount of information they give you.
Yes.
Particularly in the center stack here, and the center console is phenomenal, and that's partly because the entire cluster is digital. So yeah, good job, but at the end of the day, it just doesn't get me the way the Ram does.
Well, yeah, fair enough, and that's what this all really kind of comes down to. And I mean, everyone who watches the channel knows you bought the Ram 2500, so we know where your allegiances lie.
Yeah, but I like to think that I can be unbiased enough to give credit where credit is due.
Totally.
And I think I mentioned this to you. We were talking earlier, and I said, like, these are all good trucks. And if this was a race, one of them is going to win it by an inch, not by a mile. It's
sure.
just, they're so close. And that's why I keep going back to what touches you, what makes you happy, because that matters too. And so if I looked at this one versus the Ram interior, that's the one that puts a smile on my face.
Fair enough. Now, Dad, I wanted to mention ride and handling because we're here in the F-150, but after now being in all three of these trucks back to back, just driving empty today, I don't think it's worth talking about because they're so similar. Even the Ram with its coil springs and airbags, it might be a hair more comfortable than the other two, but honestly, do you feel a big difference? They're all quiet and comfortable.
Yeah, and frankly, the big thing is that the soundproofing continues to get better every year. And you know what? When you're in a quiet interior, the rest of the stuff just kind of evaporates anyway. So are there slight differences? Yes. Are they enough to even go on about? No.
Well, folks, we're coming to the end of this video, and after doing all of that research and all of those comparisons, I figured out why people stick with the same brand. It's a lot easier just taking the truck you know than having to go out and really look at all the differences here, because there are so many of them. And you know what? When you're truck shopping today, I think it comes down to going to the brand that has the features that you know you're gonna love, but then there's also that emotional side of things where you just look at a truck and say, that's the one for me just because of the way it looks. Now, with that in mind, I'm gonna tell you, if I was laying my money down on a 2021 half-ton, I'm gonna be driving home in a Ford F-150. I think this truck has the best balance of the other two. It has strong powertrains, a lot of options, and a really nice interior, plus all those great features. There's a lot to talk about. So, you know what? That's just my opinion, though. Of course, I need to hear from you. I want you to go in the comments right now and let me know, if you had a choice with your own money, which one of these three would you buy? And oh, by the way, 2022 is just around the corner, and really soon we're going to be getting the new crop of half-tons. So this is a send-off to 2021, and we're looking forward to the updates coming in 2022. So folks, that is the end of this one. Leave me that comment. While you're down there, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, hit join to become a member of the channel, and then come right back here to Truck King to see what we're testing next. See you.